There is an animal that humans have kept for 10,000 years, yet have never truly domesticated. It is a born killer, a pure carnivore that craves blood and depends on fresh meat to survive. It does not obey human commands, gives attitude, and might knock your cup off the table, causing you frustration. Yet, it has become the most popular pet in the world. That animal is the cat. About 10,000 years ago, humans gradually entered an agricultural society, forming permanent settlements, and the stored surplus grain attracted a large number of mice. Various wild cats followed the trail of prey and began approaching human dwellings, forming a loose and voluntary symbiotic relationship. Leopard cats in East and South Asia, wildcats in Central Asia, European wildcats, and African wildcats all once entered the human sphere of life. Yet among all ancient civilizations, only ancient Egypt truly turned cats into pets. Why was Egypt the only place in the world that succeeded? In fact, cats entering human society can be clearly divided into three key stages. The first stage is the primitive symbiotic stage, which began with the origin of agriculture 10,000 years ago. The second stage is the critical period for personality domestication, starting around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, when ancient Egypt fully accepted cats and introduced them to the world. During this stage, their temperament gradually became gentler, while their appearance remained almost unchanged. The third stage is the deliberate breeding for appearance according to human aesthetics, continuing from the mid to late 19th century to the present. Stage 1, loose symbiosis, humans and cats belong to no one. In the initial symbiotic stage, cats approached humans voluntarily but could return to the wild at any time. Humans did not forcibly confine them, both sides simply had a mutually beneficial relationship, far from domestication. Symbiotic cases are common in the animal kingdom, for example, cattle egrets and cattle benefit each other, yet no domestication exists. The relationship between humans and early wildcats was just like this. But over long periods, some humans developed special feelings for cats. For example, the 9,500-year-old human cat joint burial on Cyprus is solid evidence. This island is 70 kilometers from the nearest mainland, making it impossible for cats to arrive on their own, proving that humans deliberately brought them to the island. The tomb included stone tools, shell ornaments, and other burial items, and the cat remains showed no signs of slaughter or consumption. The cat was naturally dead and later intentionally placed in the joint burial by humans. This implies that humans were willing to invest extra effort for cats, incorporating their deaths into human mortality narratives, no longer treating them as mere tools. This is completely opposite to the logic of domesticating pigs, cows, sheep, or dogs. Domesticating livestock is a pure profit exchange, for meat, fur, or labor, an economic logic that guarantees returns. Yet humans gave effort for cats without stable returns, and when economic logic cannot explain it, love emerges. As the fox says in The Little Prince, when you invest time and energy into your cat, it becomes a unique existence in the world, connected to you, no longer replaceable. But this was not a universal phenomenon. In most civilizations, the relationship between humans and cats remained in the symbiotic stage. As agricultural civilizations continued to develop, humans domesticated more animals, yet the domestication of one animal almost completely blocked cats from integrating into human society: the chicken. Chickens were first domesticated in Southeast Asia and then spread across the Old World via agricultural trade routes. Humans domesticated chickens purely for profit. Meat, eggs, and feathers are predictable returns, with clear and controllable value. But cats produce no food, their only function is hunting mice, and more dangerously, birds are their natural prey, they inevitably steal chickens. For early humans, chickens were a primary source of protein. So a cat stealing a chicken equaled theft of vital property, and the benefits from mice control often did not outweigh the losses of chickens. As a result, human attitudes toward cats became conflicted and even hostile. Ancient Chinese records mention, someone borrowed a cat from a neighbor to catch mice, but after the mice were gone, the cat ate all the household chickens, and the son angrily demanded the cat be driven away. At that time, cats in China were likely leopard cats, and African wildcats in the Mesopotamian region faced similar rejection. In the Code of Hammurabi, cattle, sheep, and donkeys were legally protected with compensation required for harm, yet cats had no legal status and were completely marginalized. Even harsher, cats were replaceable. Humans invented traps, built elevated granaries to prevent rodents, and even trained more controllable dogs for mice hunting, diluting the practical value of cats. In almost all civilizations, attitudes toward cats became consistent. Cats could be kept for mice hunting, but if they stole chickens, they were killed. Even if they did not, they could be skinned for clothing. Over time, gentle, human-friendly cats were more likely to be captured and killed, leaving only highly cautious, human-avoiding nocturnal wildcats. This is typical reverse domestication, selecting against friendly individuals and leaving only wary wildcats. Chinese leopard cats and European wildcats still retain this behavior today. Worldwide, only ancient Egypt was the exception. The core of Egyptian civilization was the Nile-centric agricultural system. Every year, when Sirius rose, the Nile would flood regularly, depositing fertile silt that sustained the nation's food production. Egyptian officials measured Nile levels to predict harvests and set taxes. After abundant harvests, grain was collected proportionally and stored centrally in the state treasury. The risks of concentrated grain were obvious. Mice could eat and contaminate it, causing spoilage. Egyptian officials, soldiers, and craftsmen were paid directly from the state grain, linking food security to national stability. Cats' natural hunting of mice thus became a key component of maintaining the state, making them indispensable in this agricultural tax system. In Egypt, nearly all forces crucial to survival and order were incorporated into the divine system. Egyptian gods had very practical roles, all linked to survival, order, and even cosmic laws. For example, the sun rises daily, so the sun god Ra was seen as governing the universe's origin. The Nile's annual flooding brought fertile land, so Hapi, the Nile god, was worshipped as a deity of abundance. The jackal, frequenting tombs, made Anubis the guardian of the dead and guide of souls. In other words, any force maintaining the world's functioning was incorporated into the divine system. Cats not only guarded granaries and eliminated rodents but also drove away and killed venomous snakes invading homes. In Egyptian culture, snakes symbolized chaos and danger, so cats' behavior essentially combated disorder and protected order. Thus, cats were endowed with the symbolic meaning of protecting the household. Around 2000 BCE, during the Middle Kingdom, cat worship centered on Batet officially emerged. Batet worship brought cats the most direct institutional protection. Henceforth in Egypt, killing a cat without reason was a grave crime. When a household cat died, the owner would shave their eyebrows in mourning and even mummify the cat properly. This institutional protection greatly increased cats' survival rates. Even if a cat stole a chicken, Egyptians would not punish it. Instead, it was seen as an expression of Bastet's divinity, with the responsibility placed on humans for poor supervision. We often say cats are self-domesticated, but this was not human-led domestication. It was a mutual relationship between humans and cats. Humans provided extreme tolerance, gentle cats gained survival advantages, reproductive rates increased, and this ultimately accelerated the development of cats' sociable temperaments, making them more suited to living with humans. By the New Kingdom period, circa 1550 to 1070 BCE, Egyptian murals depicted groundbreaking scenes, cats resting under their owners' chairs, at their feet, even wearing ornate collars. Before this, even if cats were deified, they were only active in fields and granaries. Entering the home meant entering the household's core space, signifying that cats were no longer mere tools or property but had become family members. Egyptians mourned the death of cats and felt anger at their unjustified killing. Caring for cats and respecting their lives became a shared social consensus. This was the most crucial step in turning cats into pets. Civilizations that treated cats merely as tools could never turn them into true pets. Individual preferences are fleeting, and only societal consensus can provide cats lasting security. Worldwide, only Egypt provided cats with 1,500 years of tolerance and protection. It was this long window of time that laid the foundation for domestic cats' gentle and friendly nature, giving us the well-behaved pet cats we see today. Otherwise, cats would remain like foxes or weasels, forever on the fringes of human society, maintaining distance and wildness. The Bible says, "Love is patient, love is kind." It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. This passage perfectly fits the relationship between ancient Egyptians and cats. Egyptians practiced this love with millennia of tolerance and kindness, and cats responded with gentleness and closeness to human goodwill. Cats were never physically altered like cattle or sheep, nor did they learn to obey commands like dogs. They always retained their wildness and the ability to leave at any moment. The true change was never in the cats, but in humans. For the first time in human history, we did not attempt to fully control an animal, but chose to coexist as equals, allowing it independence, allowing it to refuse, and even allowing it occasional mischief. It is precisely this non-coercive, non-controlling relationship that gave birth to a new form of interspecies emotional bond. Perhaps this is what makes cats special. They are not domesticated livestock, but pets. If you liked this video, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.